Okay, hello everyone. We're live, and on the stage we have John, Ook, and Jeebus. So for this week, we are starting an hour early. It was really for Neo, since at 8 p.m. Central, it's kind of late for him. Um, we'll we'll try this, but we'll probably go back to 8 o'clock. I think it just works out for better for most of the people, um, but we'll at least try this and see if it makes any big difference or if we get any other feedback. But for this week, the topic was in regard to the question of what does atheism have to do with this the transgenderism discussion, and this actually came from last week when we were having that discussion with Diva. Someone had made a comment in the live comments calling Sideboob a transphobe, which I thought was unfair. So I responded to that. But he and Danley Jones had kind of had some back and forth, and interestingly enough, for this week, the latest AXB video is in regard to whether atheists think gender is fluid. So and Forrest actually kind of addressed this question of, does it make sense for atheists to address this? But I wanted to discuss it with you guys, get your feedback. So let me turn it over to you guys. Just before, I'm going to share the comments, but before we do, anyone want to kind of start off with your viewpoint? Let's see.
So
This is
I'll at least say a little bit about what you and I had discussed before we went live, which is, yeah, strictly speaking, atheism is just a position on not being convinced on the existence of a god. But unfortunately, because the religious right in America is so focused on culture issues and imposing their view on everyone, including non believers of any stripe, any non Christian, then the byproduct becomes that everyone has to talk about whatever topic is their particular boogeyman of the week. This cycle, it's the members of the trans community. In the past, it's been members of minority communities like African Americans, women's rights issues, abortion. The list goes on, where you can be a group that has a particular viewpoint on a particular topic, but because everything is political to members of the Christian right, everybody gets dragged into their boogeymen. And when the leading presidential candidate is somebody who has no qualms about saying demonstrably false things and being a walking troll, then that just turns the temperature up across the board for everyone. So unfortunately, the byproduct is we end up having to talk about it, even if it isn't strictly speaking in the strictest definition, of what atheism is. That
Yeah,
that may have been a little convoluted, but did I at least kind of generally get it across?
yeah, I think that applies much more on homosexuality and gay marriage, right? Because the Bible thumpers can come out and say, "Hey, this is what the Bible says." I think for the trans issues, it actually cuts across atheism and theism, because we do have a lot of atheists who kind of pop in and say, "Hey, what's with these or gender and sex are the same? Why are we thinking that they're different?" Or all the pronoun stuff, right? We get so many pronoun comments from atheists, or at least people who claim that they're atheists.
I'm just going to try and get hold of Hogarth and see if he wants to join. I'll just mute myself and I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay.
The irony, of course, being that people that identify as atheist in the comments section want to cast aspersions on people who identify as a given gender.
Yeah. Well,
there's a certain irony there.
Yeah. And the other thing to consider is, and I think I make a comment here. I can't remember if it's here, but the point I had made was in regard to what the ACA stands for, right? The ACA isn't just atheism, it's also the secular humanism. And in general, secular humanism is where, it supports, kind of these marginalized groups. Like I'm sure in the past, the ACA supported gay rights, but now, the focus is on the trans community, and they are doing a lot of this to support the trans community.
Sure. Now, on a personal level, I have many members of the queer community that are deep, close, personal friends of mine, and just as an individual, when I get into these kinds of conversations with folks, whether they're atheist, theist, or a purple space penguin, it is, a lot of times it's about not understanding definitions and these perspectives that people bring to these conversations. And I personally I try to, I know I'm being kind of glib when I say in the comments section, define male or define what you mean by that. But it really is coming from a place where if I don't understand, you want me to agree with you on these issues, but if I don't understand what you mean by these key terms, how am I supposed to do that? And it's fascinating to me just how rare it is for somebody in the comments section or somebody in the real world to actually have an answer to those core questions. So a lot of times we end up talking past each other because we don't even agree on the core terms.
Yeah, and I think it also, similar to things about, Big Bang or evolution, etc. There are people who don't fully understand the biology or the medical aspect of it, and kind of feel that, hey, it's common sense that there's a man and a woman, whether they're Christian or not.
Well, it was common sense that the Earth was the center of the universe and that the sun revolved around it, and that was common sense. And that was common sense until we used science, and it turned out, oh, we actually have that exactly backwards.
Yeah. But let me just quickly go over the comment that started. So, this person, what's his name? 9JA 9ITE. So, WTF, does this have to do with atheism? I'm going to sort out a lifetime of religious bullshit crammed into my head. So ultimately, he's saying, hey, I'm just trying to focus on this atheism, trying to, deal with, his theism past, and all this discussion of trans issues is just confusing him. And the two kind of the sides of this discussion, one is the Dan Lee Jones. He kind of starts with, hey, this is I think kind of starts with, hey, you're being a transphobe. And so Sideboob comes in and says that, the whole general point is, what does this have to do with atheism? And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because, we bring this up when, theists talk about evolution or Big Bang or abiogenesis, because ultimately, even if those things are disproved, it doesn't say anything about atheism, and it doesn't prove God. So it's completely unrelated, and yet we still talk about it, right? And that goes to what you were saying, John, right? Especially with evolution, there is a tie into religious beliefs.
Yeah, it's because see, we're willing to keep the conversation in the I hate to use the word narrow, but in the confined structure of evidence and reasons for believing or not believing in deity or deities. And that's where atheism as a conversation begins and ends. But the theist, regardless of the religious background, will bring so much other social baggage to that conversation. God doesn't make mistakes because God is perfect. And so the perception that they bring is that the trans community is saying that God made a mistake. And so they're bringing that into the conversation, even though the actual topic at hand doesn't include that, but they're bringing it in either voluntarily or involuntarily.
Yeah. And I just put a
Unless
link.
somebody thinks I'm off base on that.
No, I think you're spot on.
Yep.
Spot on, mate.
I was just gonna say, if there's anyone in the live chat wants to get on, they can. I put the link to the StreamYard, so they can just use that link to join us. Obviously, you don't have to, but but if you like. So the other side is, Dan Lee Jones. This is his response to side boob, and I think he kind of comes off pretty hard, harsh, in calling side boob a bigot. And he kind of makes your point, John, about because Christians persecuting the LGBT community, etc. And then side boob responds and says, he's not a bigot, not not the most cordial back and forth, but but let me just I thought Dan Lee makes an interesting point here, because this is where he's kind of tying in atheism with progressiveness, right? So he's kind of saying that as an atheist, you kind of have to support this, just being kind of um, that atheism sort of requires this progressive thought, so I don't think he's like 100% correct, but I get the point.
Yeah, no, and in fact, you can be libertarian in the socioeconomic sense of it, and be an atheist. And so there you have a very conservative perspective on social structure, and not have a God at the center of it. So being an atheist does not necessarily mean liberal or progressive by any stretch of the imagination. It just it's the conclusion on a single topic, and that's something that the theists just can't seem to quite get their head around.
It's
Can I just add something
yeah,
really
go,
quick?
go for it, man.
Okay. I understand it's a very sore subject, and a lot of us are tired of the hates that's involved with discussing it. But the show is not completely about atheism. Somebody mentioned it's more issues with secularism, human secularism. So
Yep.
that's one of the reasons why we need to support the trans community. And it's not really because we're an atheist. I don't know if I am in agreement with that notion that you must support trans issue if you're an atheist. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm 100% on board with that.
Yeah, because that seems like too extreme of either you're with us or you're against us.
So
Yes.
yeah, and there's also the concern that because members of the Christian right are against this topic, if we agree with them on anything at all, somehow that taints or pollutes or dilutes the veracity of our core claim about atheism. And those things are not mutually inclusive. They're not mutually exclusive. They're separate issues. But because so many of us have such a distaste for the tactics and the brand of Christian conservatism, if there's anybody that's in, for lack of a better term, our camp that agrees with them on anything, then clearly we must weed them out. Clearly we must shun them, etc., etc. And that just that defeats that just defeats the whole purpose of conversation. But keep in mind, the show is called The Atheist Experience. So what do we experience as atheists? And as an atheist, one of my experiences dealing with conservative bobbleheads that want to make a level 10 fire out of every single cultural issue. And so whether or not it has anything to do with atheism just kind of goes back to my core my core premise out of all this, which is whether we want it to be, they're loud and obnoxious, so we have to be.
Yeah, actually, before we go, so Jeebus, you asked whether there's a mod. I made you a mod. By the way, this person, I'm not sure whether they're being serious or not. Flight X Science made a comment that the ACA was rife with anti-trans bigots, often facilitated by Matt, which just seems kind of laughable. To think that Matt was facilitating anti-trans bigotry, but so maybe this person just maybe being a troll. I'm not sure. But we do have a troll, Wesley Curry the second. He was on here last week as well, but he's back with his trolling.
Well,
we're all Satan.
Hi, Wesley Curry too.
Why don't you join the chat?
Yeah, come on.
Hail Satan.
Wesley, we're mostly harmless, I promise. I've had all my shots and I don't bite.
And I've not been charged with assault for 20 years. I'm doing good. Can I just give my sort of like weird little colonial take on this? I never. I don't know. People might know that I was literally born in an Australian bush pub. I learned to speak English sitting on the bar. So back then, no one cared what you were, as long as you were a good person, as long as you were a good fella. It didn't matter whether you were black, white. We'd call them wogs, we'd call them black fellas. It didn't matter. As long as you're a good fella, or what, Sheila, he puts on a dress. So what? Now, when it came to all the anti-gay stuff that was coming out in the early 80s, we had in Australia, especially Northern Australia, we had a thing that started to become a problem called poofter bashing, where groups of idiots would go out and bash gays. Now, it tried to progress into the far north Queensland and Northern Territory, and a few of us got together at a bar and overheard people saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to go out poofter bash," and we were nice. We dropped them off at the hospital after we had a nice talk to them, and the cops sitting in the saloon bar next door, didn't even worry about it. This idea of everything that the far right, and I include that in America and Australia, a dog whistling, it's the same thing they used against equal rights for women, gays, gay marriage. It's all interchangeable. And I don't care about pronouns, but if someone, I never thought about pronouns, but yep, right, if someone says, my pronouns are such and such, it's only common courtesy to use those pronouns. Otherwise, you're just being a dick.
Yeah. By the way, Wesley, just hold on a second before I add you to the stage. One thing about the pronouns is like, and especially for people who kind of, poo-poo it and say, hey, what's the big deal? For the most of us, it's not a big deal, right? If someone accidentally misgenders you, because let's say,
It's easy to do.
yeah, it happens, right? But the point is, I think for a trans person, that's more of a sensitive thing, right? Because it kind of devalues them, or doesn't affirm their the gender that they want to
Yeah, the
present.
poor
So
bastards got it hard enough. We don't need to pick on
yeah,
them.
yeah. So all this kind of like prefer pronoun is really to kind of make things at least a little bit better, and it's really no skin off of anyone else's nose, except the people who get triggered, right? That, oh no, they're putting the pronouns. But there was a comment that I can't remember. Oh, apathetic fish was wondering whether Wesley Curry was Dingleberry or Neppy. So I just brought him on. So Wesley, you're on. So are you either Jim or Neppy or one of those guys?
Nyanya. Yeah, I remember playing Nyanya when I was in kindergarten. No, thank you.
I have no idea what you just said.
Yeah, you're one of those atheists, right?
Most
One
of the
of
people
those
on this comment,
atheists.
this section tonight are. Is it your intention to have your camera on so that we can see your face? Is that your intention?
I have no reason to hide.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Coward.
Okay. So what brings you here? And by the way, you are saying that you're not any of the normal commenters on the channel, right? On the AXP?
I'm the man that Jesus gave his dove to. You've seen me in many visions, how I gathered the 144,000 visions from Jesus. And that any that try to stop us will fall at our feet. They will fall at our feet the same way that you were unable to move in your beds on October 10, 2005, on March 31st, 2020.
Oh, buggering Christ.
I'm not sure.
So
I'm having a hard time following. I can't.
The truth is not in you. You don't.
Yeah, it seems like you're not saying anything that makes sense. But if you want to, I'm not gonna keep you on just because, it doesn't seem like you are being sane. But
Hey, Wesley.
At least
Wesley,
thanks for.
Wesley, you're on mute. We can't hear you. So slow down. Slow down.
Sure,
Okay, you're back on.
Letting me on your little toy. It won't bother me one bit if you don't let me on your little toy, little boy.
Nobody has any problems with you being on. We just would like to have a conversation with you.
No, you're going to cut me off anytime I speak the truth.
So how do you know that what you're saying is true?
Satan told you these words.
How do you know that Satan exists?
I will turn and toss you violently.
No, hold on. You said that Satan told me to tell you these things. How do you know that Satan exists?
Wait. So how do you know what Satan told us when we don't know what Satan told us? So apparently Satan told you.
I will turn and toss you violently like a ball. He told you those words in your feeble.
Wesley,
he did not.
On October 10, 2005.
Wesley, Satan doesn't exist. There is no Satan.
I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Gnash your teeth, Allah.
You're,
Well,
hang
actually,
on. You're
before
making these claims.
Every one of you.
You're
So
throwing these
John, before
accusations.
we go on, so Wesley, why don't you tell
I'm
us a
going
little
to
bit
give
about
that warning
yourself
to the Taliban.
and about your belief?
Nash, you're
Are you able to behave politely in polite conversation?
so you see, you are my footstool. I can make you national.
Okay. Hey, Wesley, bye
Goodbye.
bye. Well, that
There
was
was someone who
interesting.
needed medication.
Yeah, no, that's why I didn't want to keep him on, because he did seem a little bit out of it.
Yeah,
The only reason,
maybe a stroke victim or something. That's what I was thinking. The way his mouth was
oh,
moving. But,
yeah, that's true. It's just that the only reason I brought him up was, possibly that he was either Neppy or Jim. I definitely, he's not Neppy. He doesn't look
No,
like Neppy.
yeah,
No. Not Neppy.
yeah. The comment pattern isn't consistent.
Yeah, and that doesn't seem like
No,
Jim
Neppy,
either.
it's not. Yeah. No, yeah. The comment pattern isn't consistent.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting diversion, but and it's kind of funny that he came back on from last week, kind of spouting the same kind of ridiculous things. But all right, so back to our discussions. For at least for the guys that are on the stage and whoever wants to reply on the live chat, do you guys which of you guys think that we should not be talking about trans issues, or or pronouns or whatever on the AXP?
Only if theists bring it up, I think, really. Or people whinge about the fact that they, use pronouns. No one's forcing them to say pronouns. It doesn't. I can't see why we need to bring the subject up unless someone is having a whinge about it. That's just my opinion, but open to others. What do you reckon, Jeebus? Nope. There he is.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to figure out. I think maybe because I'm not logged into an account, I can't be given mod rights, because no matter what I do, it will not, the three dots will not show up, nor will any prompts show up on these comments.
Yes,
So
you are showing up as a mod, though. It has a little wrench icon next to your name.
Okay.
But
Maybe I need to log in then.
yeah, maybe.
Try.
Yeah, if you're not logged in, you should log in.
Okay.
But Ook, oh, go ahead, Jeebus.
I'm sorry, Ook, could you repeat the question?
I don't think we need to bring up pronouns unless someone has a whinge about it. Because basically, no one's forcing people to announce their pronouns on the show. And the only time you see people whinging about it is, pronouns, him, her, we didn't know that. It just seems to be something they want to whinge about, and we can have a go at them then. But I don't think it's something we need to really discuss all the time in the comments unless someone else brings it up.
Yeah, they are making that too much of an issue. And I think it's what it is that people do not want trans people to have that right.
You are totally correct on that one, yeah.
So a lot of what is at the identity of the Christian conservative specifically is the identity of specialness, that the universe was created for them, that that God is the one true God as they understand it, they have truth, they have existence on their side. And so all of these things that they've always just accepted as inherently true, as science, as knowledge, as human understanding has evolved over time, the specialness of humans has ebbed away. We are not the center of the universe. We're not the center of this solar system. We're just another planet. Well, that's okay because I am a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male, and so God says that I am special above all the other races. Well, no, that's not true. All the other races, and whether or not race is even a thing. So, okay, well then I'm a male, so that must make me special because I am superior over female. Well, wait a minute. Male and female terms that we've always taken for granted, those don't have the meanings that we thought that they did. And so as the march of science and understanding and knowledge moves forward, the specialness of the Christian in their mind is, from their perspective, under attack. And so because our understanding of gender is what it is now, as opposed to even 10, 15 years ago, that's, I think, maybe one of the reasons why they're making it such an issue, because it is literally a part of their identity.
I don't think it's just Christians who are doing it. I think it's people who are, I don't know. I hate to use far left, far right, because it varies so much from country to country. But far right people that are just, no, this is, you can't have a man dressed as a woman. You can't have a woman dressed as a man. And the idea of multiple genders, I mean, goes back to antiquity. You only have to look at the Talmud. What is it? The Jews, 6 genders they recognize. You've got all the current cultures, Mexico, India, Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, a couple in Madagascar. They all recognize multiple genders, and it was never talked about before, but now, because of media and access, it's being talked about, and it's just upsetting so many people because, oh no, my perfect little world is falling apart.
Yep.
That was me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty clear in terms of science, biology, and all that sex and gender are different. Not just in those places where there are more than 2 genders, but even in Western societies, there is kind of this fluidity, and it doesn't always match the biological sex. Not to mention that biological sex itself isn't completely one or the other. It's a complex set of different attributes that make up what we would say is male or female, along with like intersex. So we know that that's not true, but it seems like and especially Christians or theists who generally don't understand science, they can't seem to get that, despite people explaining it to them multiple times.
Can I just ask Bargle a quick question while he's here?
Yep.
You on, mate?
Yep. G'day all.
Hey, who was that guy who made all the fake profiles of us about 3 years ago?
Yes. The one from the 10 minutes.
10 minutes underwater,
guy.
Kevin? He's
10 minutes
back.
underwater, Kevin.
I'm pretty sure he's back, and he's Joey Trans whatever. And he's made a fake profile of Neil Roberts.
Aha.
Yeah.
Well,
so
that said, there was
another guy.
I think the fella Donkey did it as well, I think.
Yes. I knew Donkey did it, but I just underwater Kevin. No, I'll go and check my files and everything. Yeah, you're right there. Top of that, mate. All right, I'll shut
So
up.
that's not that's not the same as the cosmology, Dave, right?
No.
No.
Okay. Okay. Someone said that they thought RB Wynn or RB something, that guy was the cosmology Dave.
No, he's too smart.
Yeah.
Come on,
He knows
RB Wynn is the guy that says that relativity is wrong because of Galilean relativity, which is not the same
Yeah.
as relativity.
Yeah, that's right. Galileo had
cosmology. The cosmology of David guy is he can't even do maths. I've tried. He's hopeless. No, at least this guy knows how to write maths, even though they're wrong.
I'm not convinced that he knows algebra, but
no,
He's
he has
copying it.
done some math that isn't entirely wrong. He's just convinced that no matter what answer he gets, it's correct because it matches what he wants. And the reality, the thing which I find really remarkable about that issue is that it doesn't matter whether it's Galilean or Einsteinian relativity. The conclusion he's drawing is the same one, that where clocks don't match, magic, therefore God. And you go, oh, fuck's sake.
I've never understood that one.
I mean, the thing I can't get is like him saying that it's not time dilation, it's the clock that's changing. As if like everything else is working in a normal speed, and for some reason any kind of time measuring devices get slowed down to whatever proportion amount based on your speed, which is kind of ridiculous.
Well, clocks do slow down, but the math he uses, the example I took was go and stick two spaceships in deep space a long way from any, so you're actually meeting the criteria of special relativity. You're a long way from any gravity well.
No, but when he says clocks slow down, he's not talking about how you're thinking.
But what I'm saying
about
is the math that he uses at 0.9c, his clock would slow down by 90%. So the clock just slows down by exactly whatever the percentage speed of light it is. Whereas the actual number was it's slowed down by to 43.6%, not to 10%. So and these are things that are measurable. But at the speeds he's got, like he's also made claims that he's measured these things and he's proven them, experimentally. And you just go, at the speeds you can generate, you need a pair of atomic clocks to measure it. And so he either needs some way of accelerating something to a large percentage of the speed of light, or he needs a pair of atomic clocks. Neither of which the guy has, so he's just an utter liar.
Yeah, I didn't see him saying that he measured anything. But
he took one course, some frickin' thing, and then he thinks, and he's repeatedly said that he knows more than Einstein. Einstein just got it wrong, and he got it right. And all the physicists who've looked at Einstein's work in the intervening 120 years, none of them noticed that Einstein was completely wrong and that they should have just kept what Galileo had to say. It's amazing.
Yeah. The other one was like he said his father knew, was it one of the Nazi rocket engineer or rocket scientists, as if that meant anything.
That's definitely a situation where, your grandfather knew a Nazi. You're not making the argument you think you are.
Yeah.
That's not the flex you want it to be.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, it's him. Are we missing someone? Oh, Blarg must have dropped off. So to be fair, it's when, what do you call it? When that guy was on the U.S. side, so it was after Nazis.
Werner von Braun.
Yeah. Oh, it's not von Braun. Or maybe it is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's one of the more famous Rocketeers that we scooped up after World War II.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so that guy continues to kind of say the same thing. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but what's his name? Ricky Sparty doesn't seem to be reacting to the whole speed of light squared is 5 thing. So I've kind of resisted goading him on it, but I did do that today on one of the threads.
I did see him post that up again, post the big spam of that up again. At least once or twice in the last few days. But you mightn't have spotted it because it's such a large piece of spam that I'm pretty sure that the moment someone flags as spam, it pretty well gets bumped off by the YouTube algorithm.
Is it the same spam about the speed of light squared equals 5 spam?
One.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't
no one
seen
can
it.
calculate this. If you can't calculate this math, it's grade school, and
Right.
that giant wall of garbage.
Yeah, it must. Yeah, I haven't seen it at all. So it just seemed like he hasn't been able to post too much lately. So a lot of the trolls seem to have dropped off because that was one of the things that we were talking about, where Neppy has, kind of posted less. And what's his name? Florida, he's completely gone, right? He hasn't posted for a long time. And even Jim really doesn't post that much.
Deeba's going, or hell for leather.
Which one?
Deeba's come back with a vengeance.
Oh, is
he
Diva
back?
back right now?
Not on here, but he's been posting left, right, and center on the last 2 videos on AXP.
Okay. Yeah, he's posted a few times, but it doesn't seem like that active. So
It's weird. Yeah, Neppy and Jim will go through these phases. They're not necessarily in parallel, but they'll post a whole bunch. They'll be around and for like maybe a couple weeks, maybe even a month, and then it's almost like they get bored or they run out of steam or their mom calls them to dinner. I don't know. And then they go away.
by the way, apathetic fish, his comment, what if the guy you let on was Ricky Lanebot? I was thinking that as well. It's just that I don't think Sparty goes into this whole Satan thing. So
No, he's in the
didn't.
chakras and vibrations and weird woo
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, it didn't seem like him. So yeah, I had kind of discounted it that it was him fairly early on.
What's I'm wondering what Blarg's take on the whole pronoun sort of thing is.
Yeah, I don't know,
Getting
Blarg,
back
did you
onto
get?
the subject.
Yeah. No, I was trying to steer it back that way as well. So thanks for that. So Blarg, I don't know how much of it you caught on, but we were trying to discuss this
Sorry.
whole idea of, within the AXP, does it really make sense for us to be, talking about trans issues or pronouns, because it doesn't really involve atheism, or it's not directly associated with atheism. And Ook's comment was that, if it's we don't need to bring it up, but if one of the theists or whoever the caller brings it up, then we should be responding to some of those, especially when it's misinformation.
Yeah, well, the thing worth noting is at the intro to every single one of the shows and in the info about on every single video and over on the ACA website, they've got their the sort of purpose of the ACA, and in there is promotion of atheism, the stuff we're sort of well aware of, but there's also promotion of secular humanism and this sort of defending people whose rights are sort of being trodden over, particularly by religious people, and using religion as a pretext. Is I understand why they do it. It makes sense. So it's good they've got the transatlantic show is there, and
That's on the
yeah, I
line,
see why
though.
they. Yeah, well,
Also, if anyone hasn't caught, what is it called? The show they're doing now, the two, where it's girls talking about, or females,
that's the transatlantic.
misogyny. No, it's another one.
Yeah, there's a new one, but it's also from the line.
Yeah, it's also
Okay.
on the line, but yeah.
Yeah, some years. Sorry, go on.
No, it's all right. I did. Bloody jacarandas are going off around here, blogs, and I'm allergic to them. You know what that means.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll mute myself. Hang
on. Some years ago, there was a bit of a blow up that lost a bunch of people out of the ACA. Eventually, Matt Dillahunty got sort of caught up in that as well, and so the heap of that sort of wandered over to what became the line. And I think partly because I think Matt and Arden were a couple.
Yeah.
And a lot of people complained and bitched and moaned about the thing, but ironically, the ACA does sort of seem to have come back online.
That's Chewed Gum. That's the new one they got going. It's quite good, actually.
I haven't had a chance to listen to it. I mean, it's amazing, for like especially the Sunday show on the line, they get so many viewers during the live show, so they get into like 2,000-3,000 simultaneous.
That Cause I Want to Show with John and Godless Granny, absolute classic. Listen to that one, people. Okay. Highly recommend it.
I do like Jimmy's energy, on some of these things. I know not everyone does, but I think he's pretty funny. And, they've definitely done a lot more in terms of, growing the channel and making it more active. They definitely get better and more callers than any of the ACA shows. But
Jimmy has. I think the rationale is that Jimmy has made this his. So this is a commercial thing, and this is how Jimmy makes his living. So he's not just relying on a bunch of volunteers, like the ACA. He's actively working at it because it's his job.
He also pays.
He pays them.
Yeah. Yes, as a result.
As you should be, I think, really.
Well, and I think the other issue with the AXP was that because they were a nonprofit, there were some things that were kind of off limits, talking politics and all that. But on the line, they don't have that issue.
But the irony...
I read that up, and it's really restrictive in the States.
Yeah, the irony is, though, the religious channels, you see the every single one of the big evangelical channels, they are politics all over them. And no one's ever suggesting they should be taking away their there's no serious suggestion that anyone should be taking away their ability to suck on the teat of taxation free money. Yeah.
I think that's more true with like prominent churches. Uh, I think for those, the IRS is just not, they don't want to deal with the backlash. And also, I think, they're going to get a lot of political backlash, from, congressmen if they went after some of these churches. I'm not sure if that's as true with the smaller churches, but certainly, they don't really, they aren't as careful as the AXP and the ACA
Yeah.
in regard to, mixing politics and religion. They definitely support, especially the conservative ones. They will directly support political candidates when they aren't supposed to.
Because God told them to.
And I've posted this before a couple times, but there's a really interesting tie-in to the whole tax exemption and the rise of evangelicals and abortion being a wedge issue, all around during the civil rights time when these evangelicals wanted to be able to continue to segregate their private schools, but they didn't want to lose the tax exemption that that would have been in jeopardy if they did not adhere to the civil rights laws. So it seems really interesting. If it wasn't for that, abortion doesn't become this big issue, and how things would change if that was the case.
The irony being that the Bible is most certainly not anti-abortion. It doesn't support that position at all. And it wouldn't, because the people of the era, the people who wrote it, and they didn't have they didn't believe someone was a human until they started breathing.
Yeah, because Judaism definitely isn't this type of anti-abortion, and neither is Islam.
Yeah, that was the thing I was talking about last week with our caller, was that their issue about what the meanings of the word soul and spirit are. So the word soul is the same word as breath.
Yep.
And so the assumption was basically that the moment you inhale, that's when you bring in the soul. So a baby doesn't have a soul until such time as it takes its first breath, and you release your soul upon the last exhale. So didn't know what breath was, and didn't understand what air was or wind. So they assigned a supernatural force to it, and it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Like, wind is there all the time. You can't see it, you can't touch it. You can detect it sometimes, and sometimes it seems like it gets angry and tears your house down and knocks trees over. That really feels supernatural if you don't know what it is.
Yeah, and
No,
even Greek
That's
thought,
just summer that's just summer in Queensland, Bob.
but a lot of Greek beliefs also, tied the life and spirit to this, wind or air. And
Yeah.
of course, the Genesis, the Adam story is about, God's breath, breathing in air or, creating life.
Yeah, the Greek word is pneuma, from which we get things like pneumonia, and pneumatic is the word that means both wind and breath, and is translated from the Greek as soul and spirit.
Yeah, but Libby said you can't see the wind.
You're right, you can't see the wind. Okay, therefore God.
All right. I wanted to, let me see if I can do this.
Actually, weirdly, wind turbines can see the wind. A heap of the big wind turbines, they have Doppler radars on them that look around, detect the direction wind is gusting from, and you're the machine around to catch the wind as it's incoming. So yeah, they can see the wind.
All right.
Who
So
is Spicy Peach?
yeah, I was also going to comment about that. I'm not sure what Spicy Peach's point is, and I don't know what this. My pronouns is SMDFTBMF.
Well, invite it onto the platform. You know, why not?
Yeah, that would be shaking my blank for the black MFers.
Is it a Wesley Curry alt? I don't think it's a Wesley Curry.
Yeah, that's a troll.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, what
Language
no.
Oh, you missed that, didn't you, Blark? Oh, what was his name? Wesley
Curry the second.
Wesley Curry the second. It was.
If that doesn't ring a bell.
He's a spicy fella.
It was a weirdy one.
Yeah, there was definitely a mental health issue there.
Yeah, I thought so as well. But this is on the screen. This is the part where Forrest kind of discuss why they take on these questions about gender and transgenderism, etc.
I'm curious, is it true that it seems atheists are very, like all genders are fluid and all? Am I generalizing?
You are.
I don't understand why atheists care about
Oh, actually,
genders.
this is wrong. I think so. This is when the caller finally gets to this whole, do all atheists think gender is fluid? But I think there's a different place where Horace actually kind of talks about why they deal with these questions, and I guess it
I
pretty
think it's
much is
towards
what
the end.
we had already. Yeah, maybe. I'll try to see if I can find it, but it ultimately is, kind of what we had already talked about, is, and what Blarg had mentioned in regard to what the ACA's mission is. And, in addition to the secular humanism, the other part is the whole, the community of Bostonists promote atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism. So I think it's like critical thinking as well, where some of the issues with transgenderism, especially the idea of gender and sex being different, those all kind of come from critical thinking and of course science. So I think that's where it kind of falls. And it's not like the ACA is, or the AXP is necessarily trying to get people to talk about it, but people just call in and talk about it because they get take issues with the pronouns being provided, not just on the callers but for the hosts as well.
Yeah, and so many people don't like to reevaluate their morals or just the way they view things. I don't want to learn anything new. It's a phobia people have. Atheists and theists alike. They just don't like to accept anything that's new.
I have to admit, when I first sort of started encountering this in this sort of forum a little while back, it didn't sit well. It felt weird. It felt strange and really uncomfortable. But as a person who just follows the evidence where it goes and follows the science, dig into it, read and find out about it, and you get more used to the idea because you've sort of encountered it more, and B, the science backs it up. So you go, what do I feel about the matter doesn't fucking matter. The science is solid.
No, yep, you're spot on there again, Bob. It was sort of, why are people talking about pronouns? they exist. If someone wants to be called Miss, I call them Miss. Doesn't matter if they're, I think they're male, I'll call them Miss. But yeah, it was weird. But times change and science does too, and you move on and accept it. Or you can just yell it.
Did you see the my post from yesterday, day before? I found a poem from like the 14th century
Oh yeah, that
of
was a
a
good one.
Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just go, well, that is, you could just look at that and you just go, this shit's not new. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
no doubt.
transgenderism didn't just like start, a couple decades back. It's always been there, but the medical technology caught up, relative recently. But even that, started many decades before. It's not like it just started.
Yeah, and the other thing which is kind of interesting is I found that where kids are provided the counselling and then find out where they are, get their head in the right space, so that they understand what's going on with them. Then provided that provided that gender affirming therapy in the form of prevention of puberty up until they're old enough to really be making a decision, and then take the path of having a puberty associated with their gender. Mostly, they don't end up getting any sort of surgery at all. That is enough to give them everything they sort of need. So this whole idea of that keeps getting pushed about kids being forced into operations and they can't change their mind and all the rest of it. You go, well, if as a boy you took female hormones to have a female puberty, you can change your mind down the track. You haven't lopped anything off, none of that, but they just don't. It just doesn't. And the research shows that as the years pass, the people get happier and happier and more convinced that they made the right decision.
Well, and also, the gender isn't necessarily, you have to get the transition surgery.
No.
It's a presentation to society. So if
Yes,
you,
and if
if you
what
appear
you've
as
got
a
is
woman,
sufficient,
then
yeah.
then that's sufficient. I mean, I should say that's sufficient for some people.
Yeah.
There are others where, they really have to get that surgery or feel they need to get the surgery to,
Yeah, but that
really
doesn't happen
be
to a
that gender.
17-year-old.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the, kind of the canards that they always bring up, that their kids getting mutilated, because one day they felt a little like someone of the opposite sex. That's not how it happens.
Yeah, so weirdly, somehow that we're getting something sexual out of doing this to kids, and you just go, what possible realm does that actually make any sense? Because that doesn't make sense to me. So it's got to be saying some really weird shit about what's going on in their heads, because that does not make sense.
Well, it is definitely weird because they're always bringing up the whole bathroom thing. That's like their fixation.
I mean, honestly, have you been into a female's bathroom at a pub? It's disgusting. I mean, honestly.
So why were you in the female?
Yeah, I feel that I have more questions than answers now, Ook.
I worked security at a lot of pubs.
Oh, okay.
And no, honestly, and it would be, women would come up to me and say, have you looked at the female's bog? Go in there, oh God, there's tampons on the wall, there's toilet paper everywhere. Yeah, look, I'll stand at the male's door, and you 20, 30 women, you go in, have a piss. You're right, I'll keep the blokes out for the time being until I get a fire hose to clean out the woman's side. It's shocker. But if Bug's still around and he can hear, he would have been probably like me. In Australia, we didn't greet people with ma'am, sir, madam. It was always g'day, my name's such and such, who are you? That's the way we used to do it. And it was, we never bothered about all this, what I call fake seppo politeness. We asked someone their name. So when pronouns first came out, it was a bit, well, why don't you just ask them their name? But yeah, my views changed and I learnt the science, and yeah, you change.
Yeah, but you still get some comments going, "Hey, in the past it wasn't like this," as if things don't change, Oh, it
Yeah,
used to be that gender didn't have this definition. Yeah, so
in
what's your
France,
point?
you were stoned to death if you were gay. Yeah,
Yeah.
when things change, and there's those are definitely changes for the better.
Yeah. And when they say, going to the US, when Trump does this whole make America great again, that's just racist dog whistling, right? They want to get to a point in US history where, you didn't have these uppity, blacks getting in your face. You wanted to be definite that you are the superior group of people.
I heard from an Australian YouTuber came up with it, America's got Make America Great Again. And he proposed that the Australian motto should be Make Australia Less Shit. I like that. Every day, just make it a little less shitty. But you guys wouldn't. Sorry, not you guys, but America couldn't handle that.
But going back to what Blarg had said, before, like, I think, Blarg, you were being honest that initially it did seem strange. I mean, that's normal, I think, for people. You see something that's kind of outside of what you consider normal, and it seems strange. So, I actually grew up. So I'm Asian, and I grew up in a very small town, like a few hundred people, and there were no minorities, including no blacks, and our family was the only minority there. So, the first time I, actually met a black or saw a black person, was when I went to college at a big city, and it seemed very strange to me, to see them, just because I wasn't exposed to it. And, that's the whole idea of, when, and people call it woke or whatever, but when they try to get these kind of, sort of minorities into media, for example, when before on TV, you basically didn't have any, minorities on there. Even now, there are very relatively few Asians represented. And but, when things like, for homosexuality, when gays were kind of continued to be shown as, a normal people, then, the whole attitude turned. But with transgenderism, that's like the new thing, the new weird thing. Before, like for homosexuality, for a heterosexual person, the idea of being attracted to someone of the same sex seems very, quote unquote, icky, right? But as it kind of becomes normalized, it makes sense that you can envision other people, not you, but other, people who would be attracted to people of the same sex. But when you get to this transgenderism, this is like, a big step, right? This, because like your, physical sexuality is such an ingrained part of you, to think that, someone would want to cut off their genitals to become someone of the opposite sex. That just seems like unbelievable. And that's like a big barrier. And, that's where the conservatives have kind of taken that, right? Use that to kind of vilify this group of people who seem so strange, so different, and to use that again as like a wedge issue to say that, hey, our politics is better because we don't accept pronouns, and our pronouns are USA, that kind of stupid stuff. Sorry, that was my rant.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I was watching, trying to remember so there's a couple of channels. There's one called Philosophy Tube, which is a little bit confronting. If you watch some of the earlier, or essentially the person who runs it is a trans woman, and some of the earlier stuff was presenting as male, and then down the track came out and said, look, this is who I am, and then was wearing quite, you'd call them revealing outfits while talking philosophy. It's a really strange thing to sort of watch. But there's also another channel, and I can't think of her name. She's a blonde lawyer who does discussions about things, and I think this is the channel where specifically where she was making the point that that essentially the trans issue is not, it's not an issue about trans per se. It's not the right wing being afraid for the children. It's specifically the wedge issue. You vilify a tiny minority in an extreme way, turn them into utter monsters in the minds of a large chunk of the population, and it's not for the purpose of attacking that group. It's for the purpose of attacking the group who defend them. That'd be us. So we're the actual target of that process. So essentially, if you can make someone horrible enough, then anyone who defends those horrible people are not worth even considering. They're monsters as well, so shouldn't have the right to vote and shouldn't have the right to have any say on anything because they're not worthy. And this is the same process that was used in Nazi Germany, and it's the same process which is being used by the right to push this idea that any election where they don't win is an illegitimate election, because the votes of people on the left are the votes of people who are monsters and can't be trusted. It's a really compelling argument, actually.
Yeah, and it is, it used to be, gays, for a long time, but now that society has turned, that's where
as
they
soon
moved on to trans.
as soon as you legalize gay marriage, what next? Marriage with pets, marriage with children. You go, hang on a sec, you're already doing that. Oh, did anyone see the Republican politician talking about juicy and ripe girls?
No.
Just recently. Oh, it's a good one. There was a misinformation one where it was misattributed to a different politician, but yes, juicy and ripe. Not being allowed to marry.
Person?
No, I can't think of it. But I'll have a little look, see if I can find the clip. I think it was probably the Friendly Atheist talked about it as well. But just referring to, essentially they were trying to argue against a law that would make it illegal to get married at 14. Use those two terms, and you just go, ooh, that's a problem.
Well, is it, do you know which of these it is? It's not this pastor thing, right? I don't know how recent it was. Okay.
Within the last week.
Oh, last week. Kentucky mayor? No. Christian lawmaker.
Republican.
Yeah, I did a search for, was it juicy and whatever, and that didn't, it came up with fruit.
Yes, it's not.
Oh, this is way back. It's 4 weeks, so it must not be this.
Here was one Republican state representative. Oh, sorry, not juicy and ripe and fertile.
Oh, okay, that
What
makes
the-
sense.
Even worse, ripe and fertile. So that's New
Okay.
Hampshire lawmaker opposes bill. So your teens were of ripe, fertile age.
Did a Missouri Republican lawmaker named Dean Vanskoyak say that introducing a bill on banning child marriage would interfere with my God-given rights to her fertile, ripe body? Now, this came from
Yes,
an
that's
account
the myth
called
that
the Sergeant
attributed
Joker
one.
on Twitter, also known as X, who was brave enough to block me, but joke's on you, I have the Twitter API and I'm a software developer, so let's have some fun.
This
The
guy's
actual
pretty good. I've watched a couple of
leader of the
his.
Missouri GOP, 65-year-old Rep. Dean Vanskoyak, aka Colonel Dean, is upset that members of the Missouri House have the audacity to try to introduce a bill that won't let him marry a 12-year-old girl, calling it interference is my God-given right to her fertile, ripe body. This particular tweet was retweeted about.
Well, I gotta say that kind of falls in line with God, right?
Yeah,
God would
but
have
here's the
definitely
thing.
wanted to have access.
Is the thing that guy never said it.
Oh, okay.
That's misattributed to. So that's the wrong Republican. So
But it
yeah.
is a Republican.
Yeah, I know, and that's the guy.
Benign.
It's worth watching the whole vid down the track, but essentially the point being is it's a New Hampshire lawmaker who said it. Yeah, you can see him just there where you had it. That's the actual guy.
On May 3rd, 2024, an account named Alessandra
Jeff
Murray, who is a Democrat,
Edwards. This is the real one.
posted a video of a Republican state representative named Jess Edwards, who said in a debate regarding the state's child marriage laws.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for taking my question. Do you agree with the point of view that if we continually restrict the freedom of marriage as a legitimate social option, when we do this to people who are of ripe fertile age, and may have a pregnancy and a baby involved, are we not?
Yep, it's not made up.
Making abortion a much more desirable alternative when marriage might be the right solution for some freedom-loving couple?
Oh my gosh. So it falls back to abortion, right? Unless you
does
can
fall back to
marry
that.
a 12-year-old, that 12-year-old might get pregnant and get an abortion. God forbid.
Yeah, so you better let her get married to the the pervert who got her that way in the first place, and then go along and say that it's the left who are grooming children, and you go, yeah, but let us keep marrying them.
Yeah. Wow. And the reaction when he said that was pretty interesting. Everyone's like, going, oh my gosh.
Ripe and fertile. That's it.
Jeez.
Amazing.
Okay. Yeah, the kind of hypocrisy on that side is just astounding. You know, for the longest time, when the GOP was definitely very much against homosexuality, you continue to get this stream of GOP politicians who end up coming out of the closet because they get exposed. The most famous one is that one guy who got caught in an airport bathroom.
Oh yeah.
Kind of soliciting I guess sex, but gay sex.
What was the Little Britain, the joke about the politician whose penis was always falling into other men's bottoms? I can't remember the name of that one. I'll find it out and we'll post it later.
Larry Craig.
Mind you, that's it. That was the one.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and so when you see these kind of like Sparty continuing to put up his anti-LGBT posts, you kind of have to wonder, okay, why is he so obsessed with this?
Yeah, he thinks he doth protest too much.
Exactly.
Just feeds into his masturbatory fantasies when he puts on his stockings. That's what I put it up to.
I'm not going to kink shame.
No, I was just about to say that. No kink shaming here.
But at least
that is part of my theory as to what some of the protest on the trans community is, that some of these individuals are afraid that they'll find a woman attractive, somebody that's presenting female, find them so attractive or to be aroused by them, only to find out that they're trans, and somehow that means that they must be gay. Like it all comes back to attacking their sense of masculinity and identity, their whole identity. And
did America ever have something like we had in Australia called Les Girls? It was a variety show, that a live show that would go around the country, and it was all transvestites, transsexuals, and it was, people would go there, and there'd be blokes walking outside, coming out of the pub going, "I'm so confused. I got hard during that. I don't know what I'm going. I need to go to a strip club now."
Well, you remember though, Australia is responsible for Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Oh yes,
Don't forget that. Actually, some years ago, I was involved in a group called Engineers Without Borders, and we had a conference. So I wandered on down to Melbourne, and where we were staying, or where I decided to stay, was so I was working at the time rather than a student, where most of the rest were all students. But so I decided I'll pay for a private room out of Backpackers, where most of the rest of them were staying at the Backpackers as well. And the night was sort of turned up. Apparently, they have a certain set of entertainments at this Backpackers, and on that particular night, where I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever the night happens to be, is a drag show. It was terrifically funny, but it was also hilarious to watch all these. As a general rule, us engineers are a little socially awkward, and not quite. You see all the
bloody animals at university, admit it.
But yes, not quite sure what to make of what's going on there on the show. It was a terrifically fun sort of a show, but it was if you're not used to that and you're a little socially awkward, that it's a bit confronting. So there were a bunch of people there who really looked like they didn't know where to look or what to laugh at. It was funny as.
I mean,
all right.
We also had the Auntie Jack show bar. So, I mean, Aussies grew up for transvestites. Oh, and
UK, you had that Madame Edna, right?
No, she's Aussie.
She's Aussie. Okay.
yeah. Dame Edna Everidge.
Oh, Dame
was the character. What's it? Barry Humphries?
Yeah.
Is that the guy? Yeah. It's a comedy act that he did, and that was one of the characters, a little bit like Mrs. Brown's Boys in England now.
Yeah, I assumed it was UK because of the Dame part, or whatever. There seemed to have been a title.
It was an English character of an Australian comedian. Yeah, he also had one with really bad teeth.
So Les Patterson.
So Les Patterson, that was the one. The exact, as far polar opposite as you can get from the refined Dame Edna Everidge. Is the blue singlet wearing
cultural attaché.
Yeah, it was a piece of work.
But yeah, if you want to do, anyone cruising YouTube, just type in Auntie Jack Show and have a look at it, and you'll see why Australia is weird.
Yeah, that's the reason why Australia is weird.
No, and Cartoon
Yeah, that-
Connection with aggro. Cartoon Connection with aggro. Look that one up. Australia's rudest puppet on a kids show.
Okay.
I'll mute now.
All right. Okay. Well, we are getting towards the end of this live stream, so I think we kind of went different places, but ultimately, I think in regard to going back to the main topic of discussing trans issues, I think it kind of falls into when theists come up and make these very obviously incorrect assessment, like evolution, or even like homosexuality. I think that's where it gets generally tied to, gets connected into atheism, because of the theists that use their religion to back up their prejudices and bigotry. So I know, and that side boob might show up, but I understand his point, but I don't think that some, for whatever reason, it doesn't have to be where the AXP has to just not entertain any discussions of this topic. So I do have to say, with the line, going back to the line, because they have like specific shows that address the topics, like transgenderism, that seems more natural or more topical. But I think even on the AXP, they're not going to be able to escape, commenters and callers, making comments about pronouns.
No, you're right. They are sort of, it's a call-in show, so they sort of have to talk about what the caller is called in on.
Yep. Okay, and I don't have anything in my mind in terms of next week, but if any of you guys or anyone on the live chat have any suggestions, do please let me know. But once again, I appreciate everyone who joined us for this week, and I will see everyone in the comments.